newspaper that we're going to be delivering. It's called The Voice, and look for that. It's a production of Talking Racine, and we're going to give you a lot of information about Machinery Row as we understand it. Now, good morning. Welcome back to Talking Racine. It's Monday morning, February, what is today, the 5th?
5th, that's right.
5th, yep. Yeah. This is Mr. George Myers, Chief Strategist, I guess we'll call you tonight.
Strategist is over there.
Mr. Jim Spodek, lead investigator, producer of the show. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host, and just a pretty face on the show. Now we got an interesting story going on here tonight, Jim, that you kind of dug up, and it involves, once again, Machinery Row, the gift that keeps on giving for people that have skepticism about your local government. Man, Machinery Row is a gold mine. And what's going on now is these lawsuits that are being pressed against the city for relocation expenses. All those people who were occupying spaces or owned spaces down there were entitled to relocation costs, and there should have been a plan formulated prior to implementing anything down there.
In fact, I think we had two experts, right, that were capable of doing that planning.
Yeah.
Scott Letney and Nicole, right?
Oddly enough.
They would give seminars on how to do it.
Exactly.
Oddly enough, Mr. Letney's name, Attorney Letney, is showing up in this story tonight. And Jim, why don't you give us a little rundown on it? Because he's taken the lead counsel position on these lawsuits, if I'm correct.
Right, he's actually going to go Tuesday night and get the approval from the Common Council, but he's going to be lead attorney in the federal case. It is a federal case filed by Azarian and Olson on relocation, and on the docket in the federal court in Eastern District of Wisconsin, he is going to be on attorney's office. City of Racine is actually on the docket. They've also apparently Missner, Attorney, and Fisher is also a counsel that is going to be also on this case.
Now, Jim, how many cases has there been Racine had with like this?
Well,
and how many times has the city attorney represented in those cases?
Well, it's kind of interesting because in the article in the Journal-Times it had that this is a usual practice for the city attorney. Well, I went back and looked. There's been 77 cases that from 1991 to current that the city of Racine was involved with, from anything from assessments to police actions, somebody suing the police, and the city of Racine was involved in quite a few different cases. I did not find any place where the city attorney took lead. They've always hired outside counsel to represent the city. Somebody that is an expert in the field.
So the term routine is probably not applicable here?
No, I thought it was a little bit like, really, I mean, I can understand the city attorneys getting information from the attorneys, of how the case is going, and obviously there's going to be some back and forth. But I haven't seen it actually where they were listed as attorneys in the federal cases. I don't know, I didn't check civil, but I think it's more highly unlikely. Maybe I'm wrong, it ain't to every case, but I just don't see where this is
what was
typical.
That was the state cases you looked at?
That was federal. I looked
at
federal.
Case.
Now, there's a state
because then this is a federal case,
this
right?
Is a federal
case is much more complicated than a state case. It's a different kind of case.
Exactly. Now,
you have a specific knot you have to wear in your tie, I believe, don't you?
But now here, I mean, I'm a little familiar with the Barr lawsuit. I was actually subpoenaed, and I know that the city paid $4.3 million in that case. Now, that was the attorney in that, attorney in Nichols and Fisher. They were the attorney that represented the city. Now,
would you say that was a good outcome, or did you say the city maybe lost on that?
Oh, the city definitely lost. I mean, they lost $4.3 million. Now, some of that was
all. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, they maybe could have lost more. Maybe they actually kept them from losing more, but they did end up spending $4.3 million. Now, some of that was insurance money. Whatever the case, they lost that money.
And that was to the same attorneys that are coming after them now.
But here's the thing, George. The city has already been deemed to be wrong by the Wisconsin Department of Administration. They've already sent a letter stating you violated these people's rights in relocation. So your chance of winning is probably almost zero. Maybe they're going to negotiate something.
Sounds like a challenge.
But I just have this idea that maybe you should just negotiate this out. come up with a payment because you're liable, and instead of going through and fighting this case, it costs possibly millions of dollars. I just don't see where the rationale is in this.
Yeah, what's the upside for the city? How are we going to benefit from this being handled this way? I don't see how that's going to come out in our favor.
No.
I mean, it's already been, well, it's a law that this plan was supposed to have been formulated before any progress was made on that project.
Correct.
So they already violated the law. I mean, if they went and talked and reasoned with the people who were relocated, possibly they could come out with an amicable settlement without legal expenses, really. I mean, there would be some kind of negotiation.
There's a way
going on,
to fix this, but I think there's an underlying reason here. Now, we went back in episode 52, we talked about a straw man. We talked about all the information and the way machinery was done, which was, in my estimation, my personal feelings, there was criminal activity there. There's a complaint filed. Letney is in that complaint from Dennis Monti filed a complaint with the Sheriff's Department. Now, where that is, we don't know yet, but to be on council in this, I think there's a certain amount of damage that can be controlled, is what I'm thinking, is more or less the reason. I think it's more personal here than it is actual
to the benefit of the city.
Correct.
So it's a little CYA activity.
Yeah. Is there anything in addition to the relocation costs that the plaintiffs could get, if the people suing the city could get as a result of this lawsuit?
Yeah, punitive damages.
They can get punitive damages too. Well,
yes.
see that's where, because otherwise you could say, well, Letney, what he's trying to do is, why waste the time on a council? The worst we're going to do is pay relocation costs, and at least we save the attorney's fees. But now if they're going to get punitive damages and lawyers' fees, anything like that, in addition to it, then it's beginning to look like maybe, I mean, they don't want to let out some of this information that's...
Well, here's the other thing, then, George. Why are we not... Now, they had an attorney firm that handled the relocation that they hired, the city hired.
Right.
Why are we not looking at that attorney firm and saying, hey, you guys screwed up. You did not give these folks a relocation. Why are we not looking at that firm and saying, you know, you've got errors and emissions insurance. It's a possibility that, you know, there could be
that attorney
could be liable
to pay for some of that.
You know, there's a lot here, and there's a lot of maneuvering going on. And, you know, we were at one of the meetings, and, you know, they're asking for the city attorney to be on counsel for this.
If this was settled without going to a federal suit, which they clearly had the opportunity to do.
Right.
They've been dragging their feet, they've been stalling this thing, but they had the opportunity to settle it out of court through amicable negotiations with the offended parties. That would have eliminated the possibility of punitive damages.
Correct. From the very beginning, they probably could have got away with that. Just negotiated in good faith and got through that.
Right.
They can still do that and still get away from punitive damages if they come up and say, "Listen, let's sit down and really work this out." It just doesn't look like that's going to happen. You know, they're going to fight this thing, and I mean, you're already been deemed. If here's a jury and a jury has a letter from the Wisconsin Department of Administration stating that the city of Racine was wrong, that these people that were there, the owners and tenants, are deemed to have relocation rights, and that you are obligated to pay them under statute, I don't know, 92 of the state of Wisconsin. I mean, what if I'm a jury member, I'm going to say, well, why haven't these people been paid?
Well, there's a certain level of arrogance, I think, that is necessary for somebody to believe that their opinion supersedes that of the Department of Administration, and that they can prevail in a court of law. I don't know. I don't think it's good representation for the citizens of the city of Racine to handle it in this way, but that's the way it's being done.
It would seem like the reasonable way is to do like they did. Was it Monty Osterman who got relocation fees in the same, basically in the same project?
No problem with him getting relocation.
Yeah, you got a relocation.
As a matter of fact, that's in the suit. You know, here they give the example of Monty Osterman getting relocation, but 100 yards away, they didn't get relocation. Now, how is it that you didn't know about relocation?
Well, he has to be given, or what he was given has to be considered very generous too.
For what he got,
because the amount of time he spent at that location is less than the amount of time that he's being compensated for rent in the new location. I don't know how that makes sense. I'm not sure, but that's what they came up with. And yet, like you say, they're hardballing these other tenants and these other owners. seems completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
There's a lot of...
It's beginning to look political.
Oh, it's political.
Political and egotistical. I mean, if you got an ego that big, you're going to choke on it if you have to swallow it. We don't want
We don't want to give relocation costs to the right people.
Right, the good people.
Yeah, the good people.
Okay, well, moving on. We'll keep track of that, but that's
Yeah,
That's gonna be an ongoing
decision
story for
is done
a while.
tomorrow at the council meeting. That's what the council
Yep.
will approve.
Yep.
He's been to that was a closed. See, was that a closed?
No, that
committee
was,
we got?
that was a finance meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that was
and they-
open. That's right. I
Yeah, and they
remember that.
approved the fact that you can go on as counsel and hire an attorney as a apparently co-counsel, I guess.
So the Personnel and Finance Committee has approved it, said okay for him to do it. That will go to the council meeting tomorrow, where the council will get that the Finance Committee approved it, and please rubber
Right.
stamp
Yeah,
this for us. And that'll be
Now,
it.
one of the things you mentioned that this is kind of like a cover your butt operation too, where Letney is naming himself as the lead counselor, requesting to be named as lead counsel.
Right.
Now, if he's the counsel, that means he doesn't get deposed, correct?
You know, I think there's some law. I mean, I'm no expert at this, but I would think that if you're the lead counsel and I want to depose you, I mean, to depose the opposite attorney would
Yeah.
be a little difficult, I would think, you know.
Yeah.
And that way, you know, I mean, what did you know or what didn't you know? I mean, the whole thing is, it all goes back to the developer
It's
Blackwell.
attorney-client privilege. I was talking to myself about this just last night, and I can't share what was said.
I
Oh,
mean,
man.
you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah,
Well, you can, but
that would be
nobody will.
interesting. He's got vital information because he was part and parcel to
Right.
making this deal, and
Right.
now you can't depose him because for that information because he's lead attorney.
Right.
That will be real interesting if he can pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how
I think
that
it'll be a
works.
nice try on that. I think I've seen something in the court decision that says that's a good trick, but
Yeah,
the courts doesn't accept it.
Right.
Hey, we got another story here too. City of Racine closed session meeting of the executive committee, which took place January 12th and 13th of this year, 2018, at the Johnson Foundation at Wingspread. Boy, nice work if you
I
can
think
get
this
it.
is
Huh?
amazing. I think this
Yeah,
is amazing.
the,
It's one thing to have a closed session. It's another thing to do it at Wingspread.
Well,
And it's still another thing to get the announcement on Johnson and Wingspread stationery.
letterhead. Yeah.
Letterhead. Yeah.
Now,
Now,
this,
who's all on the executive committee? That's virtually everybody, isn't it? Or-
well, no, there's Weiser, Mi'kmaq. I can't remember each and every one of them, but you know, the executive committee. But this was an overnight stay.
Well, here, I think I got it here, don't I? Corey Mason, the president, Dennis Weiser, Alderman Q.A. Shakur, Alderman
Yeah,
Terry McCarthy,
13.
Alderman Jeff Coe, and Alderman Jason Mi'kmaq.
That's on the executive.
That should be your executive committee. That's 4 aldermen, actually 5 aldermen, counting the president, and Mayor Corey Mason.
And this was about competitive and, well, it's about water supplies, a water diversion of the town of Yorkville for the Foxconn development.
Right.
And the reason it was closed is because of
They don't want too many people finding out about what the plans are.
Pretty much what it is.
competitive and bargaining reasons. Now, competitive strikes me as being, that's really weird because, I mean, are we in competition with somebody else to supply water to the Foxconn plant?
Well, there's
Who else has got a water plant around here?
there's this, there's the people of Racine you might be in competition too with
Yeah.
this idea.
Well, I think the whole thing is, I mean, why are we having it at the Johnson Foundation or Wingspread on a city, basically a city meeting, a closed session city meeting at Wingspread, spending 2 days, wined and dined, and but that city, the citizens of Racine, you know, you're not going to be able to go down there.
There's something contradictory about
Yeah,
that.
the whole
I
thing
think,
doesn't-
it's in a private venue.
Right.
And
And we're having a
days
closed,
to talk about
secret meeting in a
Right.
private venue. I mean, and at Johnson, where Johnson is, a city, the promoter of city, and big. Well, why would they be?
Well,
holding a
and no, that's
secret
not the only
session?
time. They've also had a retreat, and that was back in, I think, November the 10th of 17, and they had a retreat at Wingspread for 2 days, and that also was funded. Apparently, Wingspread put up the lodging and the meals, and the city hired a facilitator for $8,100. I think Q.A. Shakur is here. Now, one thing about Q, and I want to preface this a little bit. he talks as though that 8,100, we're being very cautious about the 8,000.
Trying to keep it under 8,000,
Yeah,
but
I
boy,
mean,
they came close.
It was hard. But I'm thinking, this is the same guy that was speaking so glowing of spending $50 million on an arena. I mean, it's just, I want to play it.
Yeah.
Common Council and the mayor schedule a 2-day work session retreat using a professional facilitator on Friday, November 10th, 2017, and Saturday, November 11th, 2017, at the Johnson Foundation Wingspread. Recommendation is to approve the transfer of $8,150 from the fiscal year 2017 contingent account to cover the professional services. Fiscal note $8,150 will be transferred from the account as listed. Miscellaneous contingent as listed, and this is of course professional services. And as I understood, this was supposed to be a not to exceed. Okay, next item 783.
No, you know, I don't have a problem with Johnson Foundation. Actually, you know, they donating the facilities. I think that's cool. But
nice.
that was kind of a get together retreat. We're going to kumbaya with all the aldermen together and get them working together better. And that sounds more like what Johnson would be doing, not a secret meeting on deals with the water company.
Yeah, 2 days to talk about water diversion. That's
Yeah.
And are we sure that now that the people that set up the chairs and delivering
Right,
the water
the
to
bartender,
the tables,
the waitress staff, you know.
oh, I'm sure they had to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, I'm sure there was no.
not listening into
Hey,
this
if there's any
very high
bartenders
level.
or waitstaff people out there, and you just happen to have your cell phone going on, you know, when this was taking place, get in touch with us.
No, why would? Yeah, okay, you think that the details that they were discussing with that.
No.
That's secretive?
No, I think part of this is that the fact is, if you know what's going on, you're spending in Mount Pleasant, $285 million in the Racine County. And that breaks down to, I just broke it down today, I can't remember exactly the households number, but it breaks down to about $9,500 a household in Racine County.
Might be more than that now, since they're going to tear down a bunch of the households to build that Foxconn plant.
But I mean, the fact is, it's extremely expensive. If you have participation, and I can tell you, the community is not behind Foxconn. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I've been going out there talking to people, and I'm telling you, there is a lot of questions being asked, and there's not a lot of answers.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's the problem, Jim? They're trying to keep you out of that meeting?
Yeah, me particularly, yeah. But I mean, I think that really...
They don't want regular people finding out what's going on there. It might turn out like the
Spottic-free
arena.
agenda.
Too many people learned about the arena, you know, almost
Exactly.
couldn't get it through.
Exactly. When you started to look at the numbers and you started to look how this was put together, people understood it. But if you have this
keep the
closed
numbers
session,
hidden, keep it secret.
Let's not let this stuff out, because all of a sudden we've got this big, we're breaking a ribbon over the size of this new building, and everything's great. But once you see the cost of that, it's a whole different story. And what I mean, again, I just go back to this whole Foxconn thing, and this is some of what this meeting was about, was Foxconn. And again, closed session. Well, why don't you have a statement to the community? What is the City of Racine's responsibility? What is the cost of it? What is the water supply that we are supplying, other than 7 million gallons a day?
They're talking about bargaining reasons here too. Now, that's price. That's specifically price. Right. And why don't they want us to know how much
is Johnson paying for water? How much is Johnson paying for water?
Probably
a Windex is 99% water.
Is it 99? Is that all? Just 99?
99% water.
Wow.
But I mean, I've seen you're basically selling water.
Yeah.
Now, would Johnson be here if there wasn't Lake Michigan? Would Foxconn be here if there wasn't Lake Michigan?
No.
I mean, these are questions that really should be asked. Maybe we've got a super resource that the City of Racine could really utilize in a big way, but if the citizens don't have the opportunity to understand it, and you have the upper echelon in closed session discussing it, are we really getting the benefit of the resources that are in this community? We
might be subsidizing their purchase of that water.
Exactly.
They might be buying it at below cost, for all we know, which means that we pick up the difference.
And I think that's the type of stuff we need to know. Yeah, you might want to keep secret if you're going to use a tactical thing and say, we're going to tell where is it, Yorkville, that we're doing something over there, and don't let them know about it. You're going to get a little tricky in your discussions. You might not want to let them know that.
Right.
But when it comes down to the bottom line, that should be pretty open to every. I mean,
right. There should be
we're
big
paying for it,
right?
You know?
And I'm telling you, when you have when I saw that they were meeting out at Wingspread, and you had the county exec, and you had the the Yorkville people, and you had City of Racine. I tell you what, doesn't pass the smell test. I don't care. It just, to me, let's be open and honest about. There could be some negotiations and certain things that need to be kept somewhat quiet. But over and all, I mean, what information has the City of Racine really given to the residents?
Yeah, you're
Foxconn
dealing with entities whose theoretically their books are wide open.
Yeah.
I can see if you're going in and you're discussing a union contract with a business, there's some things that a business is private,
Right.
you don't get to know how much money they're making or whatever, and you're negotiating. But certainly in a city, your budget's online, everybody's wages are online, it's all there. Why are we keeping, what is there to keep secret? And it should be very minimal. I don't see where it's 2 days worth of secrets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of secrets.
And why at Wingspread? I mean, it's a beautiful facility. You're going to be out there in the quiet countryside in a lovely, very expensive surrounding, and you're going to be waited on hand and foot. I mean, you're going to start to appreciate a certain lifestyle.
That's a different atmosphere, isn't it, for secrecy? They should be in a closed room with the lights beaming down on them, all sitting around a table, and, this type of stuff. What's this openness and this beauty?
A 100-watt lamp and a guy with a bludgeon standing next to you asking you questions, right? Yeah, but like in the old cop movies.
Swimming pool and all this stuff, with a very secret meeting. It's something.
And I don't remember this back at all when they had meetings. I mean, they had this retreat. Now that was in November. Now they have a closed session in January.
Well, they had a retreat in August too.
No, that was the okay of the retreat. But he was setting it up. That was Palaniuk, the city administrator, was setting up the retreat.
Oh, this references the retreat that they just had.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So again, it comes back to transparency, and. I let's face it. Some of the older persons that have been out there, I mean, I'm sure they've been dazzled by it. We're making policies. I think here a focus on professionally facilitated retreat will serve better to prepare and equip the city's top policymakers and professional managers to jointly make the implementation more effective decisions and to better identify and establish
prioritization of scarce resources.
So.
Which must be money.
It's probably money. Yeah. There's a lot of questions and not a lot of answers.
Yeah, this getting people together. Read that sentence again.
Well,
Tim.
Let me read it.
Yeah,
to
go
better
ahead.
prepare and equip the City of Racine's top policymakers and professional managers to jointly make and implement more effective decisions, and to better identify and establish the prioritization of scarce resources. So, and one of the points.
No, that wasn't a secret meeting. That was a meeting in preparation.
It was a retreat, but I mean
that was the retreat. Right.
But the public really didn't know about it. I mean,
well, no.
And you're not invited.
No, not at all.
So,
and one of the things that I know was one of the aims of this was to create team building or to facilitate team building amongst the city council members and whoever else was invited out there. So there's this effort that they want to get a single-mindedness out of the council, so that things, when they're going to pass overwhelmingly.
Exactly.
And if they're not going to pass, they won't even be discussed.
Right.
Right. Which then in itself.
And I've heard it. And I've heard it said, one voice. We need one voice in the council.
Yeah.
And that's extremely dangerous.
Well, yeah, that's not the goal of a deliberative body. A deliberative body is all about discussion and exchange of ideas.
Right. In the open.
Compare and contrast, yeah.
Public watching.
Right.
That type of thing.
Sharing of various opinions,
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting now moving forward here. What is the cost? I'd like to really know what is the cost of what is being sold to Foxconn and to Johnson, per cubic foot or however they measure water. But what is the real cost? And I mean,
and we need to know that.
Yeah, we should know those numbers.
We need to make sure that the water department is charging properly. This is not something that just should be.
Citizens built the water department.
Yeah,
They built that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
We own
that's
it.
right. That's right.
And we own it. That's a private company. You want to buy it? Then you can buy it from us. But,
No, we don't want to sell that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Absolutely not. That's
Yeah.
a bad idea.
Yeah.
you know.
It's
Well, we're not going to sell the water department, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying you can purchase the water that has been
Right.
Well,
filtered.
I remember when our water bills went up and we were paying for this sewer treatment thing.
Yep.
And my concept of it was, which is totally off the wall, so, sorry about that.
Go for it, George.
We were thinking, I'm going to tell you about, but what would happen is then we would sell that additional services to the surrounding communities, which would now reduce our
Right.
water bill and pay for it. I mean, that was just totally off the wall. Way out.
Yeah.
no. We don't want to reduce your
No,
bill.
no.
We're going to put it in an IG fund.
That's right, and we're going
Yes.
to buy machinery, row importers, and we're going to spend millions of dollars that way instead of going back to the people.
Build an
giving
arena
it back
and
to
go
the
into debt.
people. Yeah, build an arena.
So, exactly.
Instead of going back to the people that built it. Now, I sometimes I just get really wild in my thinking, and
Yeah,
and I apologize for such obtuse.
Why do you want a
activity.
tax cut when you can have a beautiful facility like Machinery Row
See,
built?
that's the thing. I just.
I mean, have you been down there lately and seen what's going
Bang,
on?
bang! Bring out the whip. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I
it's
totally
like that
understand.
investment idea. You got to get rid of that.
I know. I got to
Yeah.
get my thinking straightened out.
Well, we've got. And there's going to be more coming. I mean, it's just it doesn't stop. So
Well, and speaking of more coming, we want to remind you that there's going to be a forum down at Gateway Technical College on the 17th of February. That's Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning until noon. It's a forum about Machinery Row. You can find us on Facebook for more information. There will be kind of like a mini newspaper that we're going to be delivering. It's called The Voice, and look for that. It's a production of Talking Racine, and we're going to give you a lot of information about Machinery Row as we understand it. Now, there has been some criticism of us out in the community that we play fast and loose with the facts, and we don't feel that we do. I mean, we don't talk about things unless we've actually got confirmation through public documents and so on and so forth. But if you have something that contradicts anything that we have said, and you have facts that you'd like to present, please bring them to the forum. It would be an ideal place, because we're not all about being right. That's not what we're about. We are about finding out what went wrong with something like Machinery Row, and what can be done to prevent that kind of thing from happening again, because that has been, well, it's been a real setback for the community. I mean, you don't feel it because it's just like on a day-by-day basis, but that was projected to be a big economy-saving, city-saving project, and instead it became a liability and a big expense, and now they're talking about another $6.5 million to just clear the site. And so come on down on the 17th, Saturday morning, from 10 a.m. to noon. Bring your questions. If you got information, valid information, don't come down there and share opinions about us. Bring information that's based on fact, and bring the actual facts if you can. We'd be happy to see them, because we're all about the truth here.
So I think the first hour is going to be kind of a presentation. The second hour is going to be a discussion in the community. So we can, and we'd love to have aldermen, and we're actually going to send out an invitation to the alderpersons and persons that have been infected or had some information or had something to do with Machinery Row. We'd love to have them here at that too to answer some of the questions.
Absolutely. Or to ask further questions.
Right.
Maybe they have questions, who knows.
Right.
But there are people who were close to the process. So if you disagree with anything that we've presented here, bring it on.
And I just want to go one step further, because they're going to say, well, I didn't read it in the Journal Times. No, you didn't read that in the Journal Times. You didn't read it in the other newspapers and different things. It should be read in these newspapers, and
Well, the Journal Times is not locally owned.
right, and they're not
so
going to.
it's all about it's a profit-making enterprise,
Right.
Right. And so they don't want to do
investigative reporting is not their thing. They're getting
No.
they're fed stories. They print a story.
They got a couple people down there now who shall go nameless, but they seem to be interested in actually doing some investigative
Yeah,
reporting.
they do now. Can they get that into the paper? We'll see.
Well,
but the fact
hope
is,
that they can.
The Voice is a paper that we're putting out, and I think it's going to. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, look for it.
Yeah. So
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Well, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen, spending the evening here at the desk with you, and thank you for being here. It's always good to be able to talk with you, and the feedback we get from the community is tremendous, It's good to be appreciated. We appreciate you too as well. So we'll see you again soon.